Today we're going to work through a Part B question from the University of London International Programme, Chapter 4, Consumer Choice. This video will be useful to any student studying a first year of economics module at any good university in the UK or around the world. This is also quite a tricky question, so I'd recommend trying it before you have a look at this video and then trying it again independently afterwards to make sure you've really understood it. So what we'll do is we'll answer this question using a graph, and then we'll do a written explanation to support that graph. So this is our starting point. We've got a budget constraint and we've got a utility line as usual. So the first thing we do is we always should mark out our maximums. So here, this is always M over PY, price of Y, which is other goods in this instance, and this is always M over PX. But what's special about this question is they tell us that the M, the income, is 100 times the price of X, because she gets all of her income from selling 100 potatoes. So whatever she can sell the potato for times the amount of potatoes that she sells is her income. So then if we sub that into both of these, we see that this one becomes 100 px over py, and well, this one just becomes 100, because if you put 100 px over px, the px's cancel and you just end up with 100. So this is actually just a constant. Okay, so when the price of the potatoes decreases, how do we show that on here? Well, it's going to affect this intersection, and it's going to make it lower, because it's going to reduce the numerator, and when you reduce the numerator of a fraction, it gets smaller. So it might move us to, say, here. Then we need to draw on a new utility line. Well, if the question says that it actually makes her consume more potatoes, so we're going to make sure that our new optimization bundle allows us to consume more potatoes. So essentially, if this is the original amount of potatoes that we consume, we need to make sure that we are to the right of this point. So I'm going to put mine here. And then I'll put on my utility line. So we can see that she consumes more potatoes overall when the price of the potatoes falls. This point here is now 100 px2 over py, where px2 is less than px. So now we can isolate the income and the substitution effects. So we take our new budget line and we shift it out until it's tangent to our old utility. Should be about there, we'll see. About there. Right. And then we see that would be here, which would be x3. So the substitution effect encourages us to consume a little bit more potatoes when the price decreases, because the substitution effect is from x1 to x3. So the substitution effect is from x1 to x3. Therefore, the income effect is the rest. So the income effect is from x3 to x2. It's the rest of the overall effect. So what we see is that the substitution effect is actually positive, encourages us to consume more of the potatoes, whereas the income effect in this case actually is positive as well, encourages us to consume more potatoes. Now, you may be thinking, well, this is completely inconsistent with a Giffen good, because for a Giffen good, by definition, is where the income effect is negative and in absolute value terms, the income effect is greater than the substitution effect. So we should, if this is a Giffen good, you'd expect us to normally consume less when the price fell. But in this case, we're actually consuming more. Okay, so why is this last statement consistent? Why is this consistent? So why is it that she can have a Giffen good, but yet when the price falls, she actually consumes more? To answer that question, we need to understand that in this question, we have two opposing income effects. Due to two opposing effects on real income from the price change. Because on the one hand, when the price of a good goes down, so the first income effect is when the price of the good goes down, then we normally argue that your real income increases, leading you to consume less inferior goods. So, therefore, buy less potatoes. And because it's a Giffen good, that income effect is going to be really big. But because our income also comes from the sale of potatoes, when the price of the potatoes goes down, M times PX goes, 100 times PX goes down. So therefore her income goes down, which means that her real income falls, which encourages her to consume more inferior goods. Therefore, buy more potatoes. Buy more potatoes. So essentially, here we have a negative income effect, and then here we have a positive one. So when we go back to our graph and we look at what our income effect encouraged us to do, our income effect encouraged us to buy more. So therefore, what we're saying is that this second effect is actually bigger than the first effect. So 2 is bigger than 1. Therefore, overall income effect is positive. And therefore, we end up buying more potatoes. So that brings us to an end of that question. I hope that this explanation has been useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos.